Hello, everyone. We're still waiting on some attendees, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for joining us for our very first Webinar Wednesday, sponsored by the Foundation for Facial Aesthetic Surgery. My name is TK Crow, and I will be moderating. Just a second. Hold on just a second. There we go. We have a great lineup of presenters today who are regular presenters at the FFAS annual meeting. As a special treat for attending this webinar, you will receive a discount code worth $75 off your registration at next year's symposium to be held in March of 2019 at the Young Hotel in New Orleans. When you combine the discount code with the early bird registration rate, it adds up. The discount code will be valid for 7 days after the webinar, so if you like what you hear today, please register. I'd now like to introduce all of our presenters. Candace Crow is the president and founder of Candace Crow Design. Dr. Jonathan Kaplan is the CEO and president of Build My Bod and a practicing plastic surgeon. And Catherine Maley, MBA, is the president and senior marketing strategist of Cosmetic Image Marketing. Each presenter will be presenting for about 13 minutes, followed by a round of Q&A after all presenters have finished. I'd now like to introduce our first presenter. Candace Crow is the president and founder of Candace Crow Design, a marketing agency that has served the aesthetic industry since 1999. Candace has a passion for creativity and storytelling and marketing. Her presentation is titled The Power of Before and After Stories. Candace, I'm now passing the controls to you. Oh, sorry. Okay, Candace, you're on.
All right, I'm hoping everybody can see this. So I love stories. So 1999 was the first year that I got a plastic surgery client, and his name was Dr. Barry Boyd. Debbie Boyd was his wife. There were 11 books in the library on plastic surgery at that time. I went to the library and checked out all 11, took them to the beach, and read every one front to back. So we didn't have before and afters on the websites then. Is all we had were albums. And so I would go into the practice, and the only way I could see before and after photos was to sit down with Debbie Boyd, his wife and patient coordinator, and look at these before and afters with her. There weren't lots of them even. There may be 6 or 8 or 10 of every procedure. And as we flipped through the albums, Debbie would tell me these stories about these people that would have this procedure done, and I'd get to hear the story along with that. Flip forward to today, and what we do is we put clinical before and afters on our websites. So we use them for search engine optimization. There's no story behind them. We have missed the story. So they're great for, getting Google Analytics higher and all that kind of thing. But what we're truly missing today is that human connection of the story. So I just love stories. We got our dog about 20 years ago. He's from a pound, and Michael, my youngest, and I went and picked him out, and his name is French Fry Scooby-Doo, and French Fry Scooby-Doo was the love of our life in the house with the 4 sons growing up. This is an awesome story. Osla, who works here, she's a designer here. She had her baby, her first baby. Believe it or not, she had it 7 weeks early. And every day that they went to the neonatal center, they would walk down the hallways, and the hallways were lined with these beautiful stories of newborn babies that were born early, and then a picture of them maybe 5 years or 10 years later. So they would go through this hall of inspiration before they got to their newborn baby. I think that's amazing and a wonderful story. I was just recently visiting a practice. Granted, they just moved into the place, but look at this beautiful hallway, and it's devoid of any stories. There's one painting at the the end, but it doesn't tell anything to the patient to help them feel comfortable or help them feel in a place that they're where this doctor can help them with their dreams, I now visited another practice, and the hallways aren't lined with their credentials. They're lined with the stories of the patients they've helped, lined with the help that they've given those patients. I just love this. I think it's such a great idea. So every story has 6 elements. The elements are the hero, that's the patient, believe it or not. The guide, that's probably the patient care coordinator, the doctor. The plan, that's the treatment plan. The action, and the guide helps the hero avoid failure and ultimately leads to success. You know, Luke Skywalker, da 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 da, right? And these stories actually become your very, very best marketing. So here what I've done is I'm a very practical person. I like to take what people have and then try to make it unique and different. And 90% of all of our decisions are really based at the emotional level. So here's a set of clinical before and afters, but I simply put a picture of a person fully dressed, which is really, really nice, and her career, her profession. And you can fill in the rest with your mind. You don't have to tell. Another set of clinical before and after photos put with this adorable patient just waiting to tell her story. You can use these kind on your websites, in email marketing and social marketing, especially when you put some clothes on them. So here's I absolutely love this testimonial. The first time I looked in the mirror, I felt like Christmas 100 times over. At almost 50 years old, I have more attention from men than I had when I was 20. Dr. Moya and his corset body lift have changed my life. How cool is that? And so then you add the picture to it with an animated GIF. And if you have a doctor that absolutely has to be in the picture, then you use it for credentialing. So now you've got an amazing story and you're still credentialing the doctor. I like to use before and afters in the practice on an iPad. We have a program called the Brag Book, and it goes for your website and the iPad. The reason being is that you can pinch and zoom, and you can see fine lines and wrinkles that way. And then you can sort and create little individual galleries as well. Then you can give them a link to take home. And TVs are amazing to be able to put together a show before and afters in the treatment room. How cool is that? Clinical before and afters, but with some nice undies, at least presentable undies, and then put with an after photo. So let's get creative here, okay? So let's get into some of the how-to. I can just hear some objections already, like how do I get my patients to do that? Well, one way is to set up, you've already got your clinical setup done, but you probably don't have a story set up area. So one way might be to create a chalkboard, do a drawing on it, and have them stand fully clothed. I can't even explain how many amens I hear to that. Show the patient with some clothes on, give her some dignity. This is a very up and coming way to show your non-clinical before and afters. Another way might be just to have them simply bring in a before photo of their own. Maybe it's when they got married, or they had a photographer somewhere, or they have their favorite before photo, and then just snap after one of them when they're in the practice. So I have breezed through mine. I truly believe that you at your practices are the dream makers. You are the people that help these patients' dreams come true. And the only way you can do that is really to help them understand the transformation that you can help them take by showing their before and after stories. So with that, it's a picture of me with a client. Be in the know with Sherpa Crow. Feel free to email me, call me, and I'll be glad to help you with your before and after stories. So with that, I am going to sign off and pass the controls back to my son, TK. Maybe.
Sorry about that. Yep. So that was great, Candace. I really enjoyed your talk. I would also like to remind everyone that we are going to be doing a Q&A after all presenters have finished. So you can submit your questions into the questions tab and we'll answer them at the end. Our next presenter is Dr. Jonathan Kaplan, a practicing plastic surgeon in the San Francisco area and the creator of Build My Bod, a price transparency and lead generation tool that helps practices attract highly qualified prospects. Dr. Kaplan's presentation is titled Price Transparency and the Sales Funnel. Dr. Kaplan, I'm passing the controls to you. All right, you're good to go.
Thanks so much, TK. I appreciate it. Candace, enjoyed your presentation as always. And I look forward to getting any questions afterwards, but I'll go ahead and get started. So again, I'm Jonathan Kaplan. I'm a plastic surgeon out in San Francisco, and I'm going to speak to you today about price transparency and sales funnels. Again, my disclosure is that I developed a price transparency platform, which will be featured in this presentation, but I will be mostly talking about how to use price transparency in your practice the way I use it in my practice. So any discussion of price transparency, any discussion of sales funnels requires a discussion about call to action buttons or the ways you get people into your sales funnel. So a lot of you, if you think about your website, you have these different call to action buttons like, book a consult or book online, submit a question or get an online consult. And I think that all of these call to action buttons, while they're okay, they all really miss the mark, and none of them compared to a call to action button like get a quote now. And let me explain why get a quote now is such a great call to action button. So those others, here's your typical sales funnel, and those other call to action buttons that we just mentioned are, my computer crashed, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and restart and it'll be okay. Alrighty. So if you look at your typical sales funnel here, you have all these call to action buttons that I just mentioned, like book online, submit a question, and all of those are fine, but because they do capture some people in the bottom of your sales funnel, all the people that are really ready to kind of pull the trigger, they're ready to book online. These are not the people that are towards the top of the sales funnel that are in that research phase. So while these call to action buttons may get people towards the bottom, what about everybody else at the top of the sales funnel? You don't want to just dismiss them. And so the one way to get everybody in your sales funnel from the top to the bottom, whether they're just starting their research or whether they're ready to pull the trigger and come in for a consult, all of those people eventually want to know cost. And that's where Get a Quote Now comes in. And I know people will say, older doctors will say, oh, if you show pricing, you're competing on price. And that's not at all what that means. Showing pricing is just a way of educating the patient, just the same way you educate them about different aspects of the facial cosmetic procedure they're getting or the breast augmentation they're getting. It's all about education, and Get a Quote Now is a great way to do that. And it helps avoid you wasting time on consults that are going to end in sticker shock. And so what I call Get a Quote Now is the triad of a great call to action button. This embodies everything about a great call to action button, that it provides, that it's tantalizing enough to incentivize the consumer to leave their contact information, and in that process provides them with immediate automated response with the answer to their question. So Get a Quote Now fulfills all three of those. Think about the call to action buttons on your website, like, sign up for our newsletter. I don't think you would argue that that's tantalizing. That's not necessarily going to incentivize somebody to provide their contact information, and nothing will provide that tantalizing incentivizing them to leave their contact information like Get a Quote Now. So let me show you what it looks like in real time on my website. Pacific Heights Plastic Surgery up in San Francisco. Consumer comes to my website, they immediately see that Get a Quote Now button, and then they're brought to our price estimator on our website, which is the price estimator that I've developed. And the consumer can look through and choose between categories or insurance plans, if it's a medically necessary service versus a cosmetic procedure. They can switch between male and female. And eventually they're going to want to look up a particular procedure that you've highlighted. They'll read about it, They'll watch a video without having to be redirected to YouTube. This is all within the price estimator on your website. Look at before and after photos, but eventually they want to know how much it costs. So they add that item to their wish list, and they don't see any of the pricing up front. They have to submit a wish list, and this is how we use price transparency to capture their contact information. They fill all that in, they opt in to being followed up by the doctor, and then once they log in with that free account that they just created, then they're presented with all the pricing information automatically on the screen. Your office staff didn't have to run around collecting it all or tabulating it. They can even schedule a consultation or apply for financing directly for your practice through Care Credit. So think about this, is how great this would be if every patient came in price aware and pre-approved for financing. And the thing is that, you know, we always want people to be pre-approved for financing, so that maybe they're more likely to pull the trigger once they get in. But how do they know how much to get pre-approved for if you won't tell them the price ahead of time? So that's why the price estimator is a great way of getting people into your sales funnel, nurture them through that sales funnel, providing them with that pricing information, and then once they eventually come in, you're less likely to have sticker shock. Now, in addition to the consumer seeing the price, they actually also get an email. And this is what a copy of what the email looks like, and the office staff gets the same email. So my office staff, when they get this copy of the email, they see the patient's name, the patient's email address, the patient's phone number. The patient gets the same email, sees the office logo, and then of course the patient sees the estimated cost. So it's a great way to get them into your sales funnel so that you can then nurture that relationship. And in the process of getting all those people into my sales funnel, I've grown my database over 5 years from 200 email addresses when I got here to San Francisco to over 8,500 email addresses. And those are everybody that's stayed opted in and that is continuing to subscribe. That doesn't include the people that have unsubscribed. So we have a huge database of engaged followers of people who've submitted wish lists to check pricing. And so now I can then remarket to them through monthly email marketing newsletters. I think my computer's crashing again, but I'll get it restarted in just a second. I apologize for this. Not really sure why, but we will not lose any time in the process. So anyway, so by getting all those emails into my sales funnel, I can then build a huge email marketing campaign and send them out with monthly email newsletters. So that's 12 additional touch points over the course of the year. Now, if you want to look at any of these stats I'm talking about, you can read about it in this Price Transparency in the Online Age. It's open source. You don't have to pay for it. It was published in a peer-reviewed journal. And one of the things we talk about is that by using price transparency to get price-aware patients into your sales funnel, that you end up getting more of those price-aware patients to come in for a consultation. And then when you compare price-aware patients to non-price-aware patients, that price-aware patients are 41% more likely to book a procedure than non-price-aware patients. Same thing with social media. It's another great way to get them into your sales funnel. You think about all this effort we put into providing content on social media. Well, when people, you post a before and after photo, somebody's going to ask you, how much does this cost? If you just tell them the price right then and there, you've lost an opportunity to find out who they are, get their email address, their phone number. Sure, you could follow them on their Instagram page and a week later ask them if they want to come in for a consult, but I think that's stalking. They don't really want you doing that. So what we do is when somebody asks us, how much does this cost? We give them a link to go to our website to check pricing. And when they go to our website, they submit a wish list, and this is that same patient. We get their name and we get their email address and phone number once they submit a wish list to check pricing. And they don't necessarily come in immediately, but you get their information. And these are people that may have been on your website before, but you never had a good enough call to action button to find out who they are. Now you know who they are sooner than all of your competitors know who they are because you're providing this tantalizing call to action. And then once you call them and you nurture that relationship, 4 months later, this patient came in for a Brazilian butt lift and a tummy tuck. And that's only because we were able to capture her information early on before our competitors and then nurture that relationship. Then also, patients are going to call your office, not just check your website. So when they call the office, we have an accompanying app where my office staff pulls out the app, asks the caller what they're interested in getting, and then they'll tell us over the phone. The office staff does this on behalf of the caller, puts in that procedure of interest, asks them their name, email address, phone number, and then the price immediately pops up on the screen. And then my office staff can tell them the price over the phone so that they then have that information they're looking for. We've captured their contact information in the process, And while you're going through this process, you can explain to them, what differentiates your practice from other practices, that it's not just about price, but at least you've captured their contact information, and it's a much more efficient way to handle that pricing. Again, I'm not promising that everybody's going to come in, but it's a numbers game. The more leads, the more procedures. I've written about this on Doximity. You can read this as well, price transparency and sales funnels for physicians. And just kind of to review, there's no better carrot to capture complete contact information than price. It gets them in your sales funnel. You build a huge email marketing database. You increase your conversion rate by 41%. And at an average of $12.50 per lead, think about how most leads people are saying cost $100 to $300. At $12.50 per lead, you're crazy not to give price transparency a at filling your sales funnel. This is a study done by Brad Hubbard. He's a plastic surgeon in Dallas with Rod Rourke's group, and he did this study on his own and lent us his data. So it's a great opportunity for you to get a lot of patients in the door, price-aware patients that don't waste your time on consults that go nowhere. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now or later or whatever TK wants to do. But either way, you can follow me on Snapchat and Instagram at RealDrBay or email me at drkaplan@ph-ps.com. Thanks so much. Sorry for a little snafu with the presentation, but I think I got through everything in the appropriate amount of time. So I'll pass it back to you, TK.
Yeah, good stuff, Dr. Kaplan. And we'll try to hold questions till the end. And good job handling the technical difficulties.
Thanks.
All right, so yeah, I would like to remind everybody we will do a Q&A at the end of Catherine's presentation. Our final presenter is Catherine Maley, MBA. Catherine is the president and senior marketing strategist of Cosmetic Image Marketing, a company that helps take practices to the next level. Catherine has spoken about various marketing and practice growth strategies at events all over the world and has had numerous articles published in all of the industry publications. Catherine's presentation is titled Finding Your Preferred Patient. Catherine, I'm passing the controls over to you.
Hi there, it's Catherine. I just want to say I really appreciate the two talks before me. Candace is so right on with the wall. I call it wall art because the patients who come in to see you shouldn't be looking at your kids' pictures on the wall or your wife's photography class photos. They should be looking at patients just like them. It's such great social proof, and what a great way to promote subtly. And then regarding pricing, I just think in today's world with how crazy it's gotten, I think giving the pricing ahead of time, I think it's a great idea. But you're always, I'm sure you're hearing all those objections, but we're priced higher and they don't know us yet. We don't want to show price right away. We've got to pre-frame things. And I used to be against it, and now I'm much more for it because this really is a numbers game. So nice talks. Okay. So I'm going to talk about your preferred patients, and I'll just jump right into the challenges. So I just want to set the table first, and then I'll go into some strategies. So here's what's happened. Because the cosmetic patient who is looking around for a solution to their pain, it's a pretty emotional thing that's happening, but it's also logical too. But just so you remember that this is all about the patient trying to decide who's the best choice for them. And that's a really difficult conversation for them to have in their own minds because so much has happened in that world. So what happens with all of this choice is you also have too many marketing channels, because what happened was when the stigma was taken away from plastic surgery, and thanks to the groups like the Kardashians, thank God for them, good and bad, just this really opened it up for coffee table talk, and just people talk about it more. So, and then of course the internet happened. So now we've got so many marketing channels where people are looking for information about, number one, the procedure, and then number two, who best to perform that procedure. So in about 2 seconds, I just wrote down the various marketing channels of how you interact with a patient who's a prospective patient looking for you. I mean, you can do the website design, SEO, PPC, which is pay-per-click. You can write articles, you can do a blog, you can pay for directories, you can work with doctors in your neighborhood for referrals. You've got alliances with your salons and spas. You can do fundraisers, billboards, print ads, social media, Facebook ads, press releases. You can answer questions on Real Self. You can do link building and YouTube channel and have your own YouTube video selection. You can do a practice newsletter, TV ads or PR, radio ads, cable ads, public speaking, retargeting banner ads, direct mail, email, patient events, and there's certainly a lot more. But isn't that crazy? As a plastic surgeon today, you're like, dear Lord, that's a lot to choose from. Trust me, you will run out of time, money, and budget trying to be in all of these places. So we're going to talk a bit more about that. So back to the consumer patient who's trying to figure out what's the right answer for her. It's too much noise. I mean, I know they keep saying, we get 3,000 marketing messages per day thrown at us, and we're just trying to keep up with all this new information coming at us. So that's a huge challenge. If that weren't enough, now we've got generational differences. And a long time ago, plastic surgery was only for celebrities or very affluent patients. And now, due to technical advancements, society trends, all of that, it's now available for anybody in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, it's really opened up to everybody is a candidate. But here's what happens. The doctor says, so what do I do? So when I do consulting and I talk with the surgeon, I say, well, who's your preferred patient? And they say, anybody who wants surgery. And I say, not really, because again, you're going to run out of time, money, and energy trying to be everything to everybody. So I'm going to show you a quote that I absolutely live by, and I think every cosmetic plastic surgery practice should. The key to success is not doing more. It's doing more of what works. I see too many practices killing themselves, trying to be hip on Instagram and Snapchat and YouTube and Pinterest and the 5 billion other social media sites. They're trying to write blogs. They're trying to do Q&A on Real Self. They're everywhere that they can possibly be, but there's only so many hours in the day. And a lot of those need the surgeon involved, such as if you're going to be a YouTube sensation, guess who you have to promote? The surgeon. You can promote the staff, but the surgeon has to be part of that. Same thing with blogging. You can have ghostwriters, but people are pretty savvy and they know if it's authentic or not. You can feel it in the writing. So you need to be careful with that. And Real Self, you really need to be answering those questions yourself. I know a lot of practices try to get the staff to step in for the surgeon because a lot of the questions are the same. Again, that's not a good idea. Everyone's about authenticity today. So you have to think to yourself, is this worth my time to go after patients, any patients? So here's my suggestion to you. Before you spend another dollar, just follow your successes first. And here's the differentiator here. A lot of surgeons are very happy being busy. Busy. They want the schedule full. They want the reception area full. They want people in every treatment room waiting for them, and they want to race from one to another. They really truly believe that being busy is profitable for them. I would venture to say being busy is not always being profitable. Sometimes it's just being busy. So now it's time to take a look at the data, because what I love about data is it takes the emotion and the anecdotal evidence out of things and it gives you true numbers. You can never question the numbers if obviously if they're going incorrectly, but that's where all the answers are. They're in the data. So for example, even today, just go ahead and pull a report in your computer, and here's a simple report. You want to know the breakdown of revenues by procedures. And when I say revenues, I mean all you care about at the moment in this exercise is who has given you money. not who has been a lead, who has called your office, who came in for a consult. All we care about in this exercise is who actually gave you money for a procedure. So here's a typical example of a plastic surgeon who's been in business for 20 years, has a small staff, not a huge marketer, but definitely in the game. And when we pulled the breakdown revenues by procedure, as you can see, almost half was surgical. It was abdominoplasty, bleph, breast aug, brow lift, lipo, and righted, which are the facelifts. Now that's really important to know. 14% of his revenues were coming from facelift. And so that's really interesting to know. But look what happened. Almost the other half was non-surgical, and those were injectables and cool sculpting. That's really important to know because that's telling you your audience loves non-surgical, but they also like surgical. So you want to make sure you're cross-promoting all of your services. As an aside, do you see how I circled skincare at 1% of the revenues? And I'm just going to throw this out. A lot of you have skincare vendors who are lovely. They're fun. They bring you food. They bring you samples. They do events for you. They do email marketing for you. But you have to remember their goal is to sell skincare products for you. All I'm saying is if only 1% of your revenues are coming from skincare, just don't put all your efforts there. Put more where some of the bigger revenue points are, such as a facelift or tummy tuck. So something else you can do today, if that report is too hard for you to pull or you can't because you don't have a good CMR, which you really need in today's world, you need to know where the money's coming from and who likes you. So all I would do is pull your surgical calendar and just look at the last 40 surgeries or big ticket procedures you've done. Just pull that and say, who was the patient? What was their age, ethnicity? Where do they live, zip code, anything else you can know about them psychographically, anything you know about them, if they live nearby, if they're well connected in the community, and then what procedure did they have and what has the revenue been worth for them? That's a great way to pick out some of the tidbits of trends that are working for you. Because here's my thing, when we look at successes, it gives you such clarity because now you're not going after everybody. Just go find more of those people who gave you money. I hope that makes sense. So when I ask, who's your preferred patient? And I do this all the time. And the doctor says, anybody. And I said, but you can't advertise anybody. Anybody is too busy trying to figure out what they need done and who needs to do it. And they're combating all of this noise. So you have to really pick somebody. So when it comes to marketing and advertising, really decide who feels like your preferred patient due to the data you pulled. And you'll see quickly, if you have any good data, you'll see quickly either you're one of the breast aug docs. You're just that breast aug doc who does a lot of breasts, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you have to market accordingly to that group. Or you're really well known for, let's say, facelifts. That's a much different demographic, so you're going to market and advertise differently to that group. So once you decide, oh, by the way, I threw in the men because a lot of plastic surgeons are starstruck by the new procedure. I think here's what I think happens. I think you've been in practice for a long time and you're kind of bored and you're looking for new patients, so you add a new piece of technology. And that can be fantastic, or it can be a coat hanger because you're just not used to marketing that. For example, 85% of this industry is still females, and you can either stick with the females, which is your easier bet, or you can start a whole new market, which are, let's say, the men with hair grafting. It's just a completely different market, a completely different way to market, and you'd have to go off on another tangent doing that. And I'm not saying don't, I'm just saying if you look at your numbers and most of your revenues are coming from the female patient, just first work with them, get that down pat before you jump to a new shiny object kind of thing, which is a whole new gender and a whole new marketing channel, because you just don't know that group. So you're going to have to test it, and it costs a lot of money to do that. So once you decide on your preferred market, which would be you decide on a particular procedure, and then a particular demographic that likes that procedure, the next obvious question is, okay, where are they? And now you go back to this list of marketing channels and figure out which of these channels makes the most sense for the preferred patient you chose. So let me give you some examples to pull all this together. Let's say you do want to go after the breast aug patient. And by the way, I am so generalizing here, so just take that with a grain of salt. But let's say you want to go after the breast aug patient. Well, they're much more into mobile marketing and Instagram. So you have to figure out those channels. Or let's say you want the mommy makeover, which is closer to the 30 and 40-year-olds, and let's say they want a tummy tuck. Well, that group is still big on Facebook content, and they'll look at some of the ads, and they're probably good for pay-per-click. But then let's say you want to go after facelifts, and that's definitely the more mature patient. Now that patient still likes TV. They think you're more of an authority when they see you on TV, and they really like face-to-face events where they get to know you better. FaceTime really adds credibility and makes you an authority, and it's a real trust builder. So that group would love face-to-face events. Or let's say you run off on that tangent and you do go after the male with hair grafting. Completely different message and marketing channel. So that group, you've got to put ads on sports and business sites or materials. So do you see how all of this can save you so much time and money when you do extreme target marketing? So don't do anything until you decide who's your preferred patient, what do they want, which procedure, and then where are they, where I can find them and talk to them about the solution to their pain. And that is it. I'm Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, and then my website is cosmeticimagemarketing.com. And thanks for your time.
All right, great talk, Catherine. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to all of the panel, unmute all the panelists. We had one question come in, and I came up with a couple during the presentations. Of all the ways to get new patients, I think this is directed at you, Catherine, from your experience as a physician, I guess this is to everyone. From your experience as a physician and a marketing guru, what are the top 3 which seem to be the most effective? Candace, do you want to take this one first, or?
Wow. Top 3. Well, I do a lot of sports and I do a lot of big challenges, and I never start without a plan. So I know when I'm going to have to get, refreshed, or I got to make this mile mark or that, but everything is just tactics without a plan. So I wouldn't do anything without starting there.
All right, great. Dr. Kaplan, do you want to take this one? Top 3 most effective channel.
Top 3 most effective channels. It really, definitely. To me, I find that I've lived in. I was practicing for 6 years in Baton Rouge before I moved to San Francisco 5 years ago. So I really find it to be location. So, for example, back in Louisiana, even though I didn't do it, I have a lot of colleagues that said, as far as channels go, that billboards were really effective and surprisingly affordable in Louisiana, but TV advertising was not. And then switch that over to San Francisco. In San Francisco, billboards are unreal. It's like $25,000 for the first month, and then $15,000 for each additional month for billboards. But TV advertising is like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. It's unbelievable, the difference. Radio advertising in Louisiana, much more affordable. San Francisco, it's kind of ridiculous. So although they might be different in different locations, it does seem like billboards, TV, and radio do seem to be effective depending on your location. But notice I didn't mention anything about print. And Google AdWords, of course, can be beneficial, but they're getting a lot more expensive. And with the influx of social media, you can actually be pretty effective on social media for a lot less money.
Great answer. Catherine, do you want to take this one as well?
Well, I just want to, my talk was all about that. you have to first pick the target market you're going after and then poll them and find out where are they, or Google and find out where does a 30-year-old hang out and where do they get their information. It's so much more important to figure out who you want to target and where they are, and then give them a message that they want to hear. They're only going to see, hear, feel. You're only going to get their attention if they're interested in what you're talking about that moment, in that matter of time. That's how you're going to get their attention. So it would be silly for you to put something on the TV if you're going after breast dog for a 20-year-old. I doubt they're there. I mean, I would think you'd want to be on social media for them. So I would just get real clear about extreme target marketing.
Yeah, so it sounds like, create a buyer or patient persona and then figure out where those patients are and stay there.
For sure.
Yeah, so I did come up with a couple questions for each of the presenters. I'll start with Candace. I think storytelling is one of the most ancient forms of sharing information, but in school, I don't ever remember taking any classes or being taught anything about storytelling. Are there any books or resources that you would recommend to help people understand the process of telling better stories?
Absolutely. A couple come to mind, actually. We went through a book around Christmas time as a company. Bought a book for everybody, and it's help me out, Storytelling by Donald.
So this is a trick question. I know the answer. This is we read this, sorry about that. It's called Story Brand. It's all about building a story brand, and it goes through the process of how even the movies tell stories, and it's a really good read. I definitely recommend it to anybody that would like to tell better stories. So Dr. Kaplan, I'm a firm believer that all email subscribers have different value. For example, a patient that you've operated on and subscribes to your email list is going to be a lot more engaged with your emails than someone that just signs up through your website or Facebook. Do you have any data on open rates or engagement rates since you've developed Build My Bod versus before?
Yeah, no. We have phenomenal data that we didn't get it. I didn't get a chance to get into that, but our open rates are 23% for my practice. Dr. Hubbard and some other doctors have different rates. He actually has higher rates than I do, but the open rates are 23%, and the click rates are actually right at 19.5, 20%. So we definitely have people engaged. Now, what's even more impressive is that over the course of 6 months, we've had 3 people mark the emails as spam. 3 people in a total of over the course of the last 6 months. I check it every rolling 6 months, and then the unsubscribe rate each email is less than 0.5%. So I've got really good numbers, and I'm really proud of them. And these people, they know they signed up for this, so that explains why there's not a ton of people unsubscribing. That explains why there's not a ton of people marking it as spam.
Great, yeah. I definitely would imagine that, the process of signing up through Build My Bod, creates a lot more of a loyalty to your list and opening those emails. So Catherine, last question. I completely agree with you about not trying to be everywhere, and that trying to be everywhere is a recipe for disaster. But I'm also a firm believer that authenticity shows through marketing, and that quite often authenticity is something that's lacking in marketing. Do you have any advice for breaking through the noise and helping practices show that authenticity through the various marketing channels?
Well, a lot of the doctors feel like they have to be that one-dimensional surgeon and they can't show their personal side. And that's exactly what's happened. It's turned upside down. Everybody wants to know the surgeon as a person, as a human being that has hobbies and a wife and a dog. Dogs are great. And, families and kids, and they want to know a multidimensional person. However, if they don't want to go there, some of the surgeons have gotten really good. And I can tell Dr. Kaplan is, do you know your content can be just you doing your day as a surgeon? So you're showing things like a typical day of a surgeon. That's your content. So if you have somebody in your office who's pretty good about recording, and it doesn't have to be Steven Spielberg quality, it's just your iPad following around the surgeon throughout the day as he's doing his surgery stuff. That's how simple content can be. That's authentic.
Yep, I would have to completely agree with that. Well, if there aren't any more, Let's see, there is one more question. Is, are referrals by satisfied patients a major source of new patients? And do you offer any incentive to current patients for referrals which follow through? Two-parter there. Dr. Kaplan, do you want to take this one?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, before, back in the good old days, a patient would be happy with it and they would call and tell a friend. But now what's happening, and it's unbelievable, is that happy patients are tagging you on Instagram or Insta stories or Snapchat and letting everybody, all of their followers, know that they're happy with it. This happened yesterday where somebody was in here, a post-op patient getting Botox, and was actually took a photo of me, and my office staff included it on social media. So that inherently, if they're promoting us on their social media, that inherently is basically a referral to, or giving us referrals to their friends. And then in addition to that, yes, we do provide a very small dollar amount discount to patients that refer patients to us, and that those patients end up coming in. We give a dollar, kind of a nominal amount of discount to the original patient that referred them. So yeah, it's definitely very effective, and effective in ways that it never was before.
Just to add to that, I would call it, instead of a discount, I would call it a gift card. And there's a connotation there because you're offering them a gift for their loyalty and their support rather than them feeling like it's, Groupon. So just a gift card. And I also like the idea of, in a practice, have a social media corner and have a big backdrop with your URL all over it. So they know, it just reminds everybody, if you're going after the social media crowd, it reminds everyone that that's really important, that your patients who are visiting are taking photos with you and passing it along on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and putting it all over. So it's like a reminder, don't forget, hang out in our social media corner.
Yeah, I love that idea. I love finding ways of incorporating content development into your pre-existing daily process. I think that takes a lot of the headache out of it.
For sure.
Yeah, we have a neon sign in our office that says, "I got stuck at PHPS, Pacific Heights Plastic Surgery," and I'll take a picture with myself and the patient, and as long as they're okay with it, of course, and we'll post it on our Instagram, and they'll post it on their Instagram. It's a lot of fun having that neon sign. It's obviously out of place, but that's what makes it funny.
That is very funny.
All right, looks like there's no other questions, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I just want to remind everyone that we will be sending out a discount code for $75 off registration for next year's symposium. It'll be active for 7 days, so don't wait to register. Also, we'll be posting this webinar to the FFAS website, and we'll be sending out a link as well. And keep a lookout for our next webinar Wednesday, and if you have any topics you'd like covered, please let us know. Until next time, this is TK Crow signing off from Webinar Wednesday and the FFAS. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.